Begin with breaking news this morning. Gypsy Blanchard has pleaded guilty to her role in a plot to kill her mother.
In a courtroom stunner, prosecutors cut Gypsy a deal.
How did you plead to the Class A felony of murder in the second degree?
Guilty.
Hi guys, and many thanks for joining me. If you are new to my channel, hi, I'm Kat and I like to talk about true crime, conspiracies and all sorts of related things. Please don't forget to make sure you hit the big red subscribe button below, and also make sure you hit the notification bell so you are the first one to know about any new videos I upload. For my returning subscribers and viewers, I would like to thank you all so much for your continuous support and for all the beautiful comments I always read from you. This is what keeps me and my channel going. Thank you so much. In today's video I am talking about the case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and this is part 2. So if you guys haven't watched the first part of the video, I highly suggest you watch it first before you watch this one, otherwise it won't make much sense to you. Anyway, I am leaving the link for the first part in the description below, and also they should be somewhere up here. I don't know, here or here, God knows. Anyway, before we get started with part 2 of today's video, here is the disclaimer. I do not mean to be disrespectful to anyone I talk about in today's video. The video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information I collect is from the internet. I compile the information, I make a video, and from this you are more than welcome to draw your own conclusions. Thank you. Before I get started, I just want to apologize, guys. You might be hearing some noise in the background. It's my heater. The heater is turned on and it's quite noisy. Anyway, let's get on with it.
You're actually a prisoner now.
The prison that I was living in before with my mom. Like I couldn't walk, I couldn't eat, I couldn't have friends. Over here, I feel like I'm freer in prison than living with my mom. Because now I'm allowed to just live like a normal woman.
Prison isn't normal.
No, not for most. But for me, anyway.
For Nightline, I'm Amy Robach in Chillicothe, Missouri.
So in the first part, we sort of set up the scene of exactly what happened with Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Dee Dee Blanchard. Gypsy Rose was abused as a child by Dee Dee, her mother, who it seems that she had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which means that a person having the syndrome, they would mimic all sorts of illnesses and disease for another person they care for, and typically it's for their child or children. And this is exactly what happens with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Gypsy Rose Blanchard at one point met Goldy John on a dating website, and they plotted for almost 1 year to kill Dee Dee Blanchard. I will start this video with a quote from Gypsy Rose herself. "I feel like I'm more free in prison than living with my mom, because now I'm allowed to just live like a normal woman." Gypsy Rose, who planned killing her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, with her then boyfriend Goldy John, now serving her sentence in Missouri's Chillicothe Correctional Center, did not talk to the media until after she had made her plea. When she did, she told BuzzFeed reporter Michelle Dean that she had been able to research Munchausen syndrome by proxy on prison computers, and her mother had every symptom. "I think she would have been the perfect mom for someone that actually was sick," she said. Gypsy believed Dee Dee's claim that she had cancer, even though she knew she could walk and eat solid food, leading her to accept the regular head shavings. However, she always hoped that doctors would see through the ruse, and she was frustrated that none besides Bernardo did. Remember, we mentioned Bernardo in the first part of our video. He was the pediatric neurologist. When Michelle, the reporter, asked her what made her want to escape her situations, Gypsy recalled the 2011 incident at the science fiction convention, which made her wonder why she was not allowed to have friends like others of her age. While she said that Goldy John took their idle discussions of murder into reality, she accepts that she committed a crime and has to live with the consequences. But she feels freer in prison than she was before and hopes to help other abused victims. Victims of Munchausen by proxy abuse often avoid doctors and hospitals in their later lives because of lingering trust issues, according to expert Mark Feldman. According to her family, Michelle and Carl, Gypsy also exhibits at times the same sociopathic manipulative behaviors as her mother, who was for much of her life her only role model. She is already psychologically really compromised and she's going to need as much family underpinning and support as she can get, Feldman told Vulture after viewing Carl's documentary in which he appears. He also points out that post-traumatic stress disorder is likely to be an issue in her continuing development. I hope they find someone wherever she chooses to settle who is willing to provide supportive psychotherapy. Dr. Flesterstein, the pediatric neurologist who believed Gypsy was fully capable of walking on her own and wrote in his notes that he suspected Munchausen by proxy, says it was only the second such possible case he had ever come across. He learned of Dee Dee's murder at the hands of Gypsy and her boyfriend later in 2015, when a former nurse emailed him the news story. Poor Gypsy, he said. She suffered all those years and for no reason. He told Michelle he wished he could have done more. HBO produced the documentary film Mommy, Dad and Dearest, directed by Erin Lee Carr, about the murder and its relationship to Munchausen syndrome by proxy. The film includes interrogation footage and exclusive interviews with Nick Goldy John and incarcerated Gypsy Rose. It premiered on May 15, 2017. And now, I think that we should watch Gypsy's interview in the same documentary.
I knew that I was different, or my life was different from other kids, but people thought of us as, the sweetest mother-daughter family ever. The best two people in the world.
What illnesses did your mom say that you had?
Asthma, epilepsy, hearing impaired, vision impaired, fed with a feeding tube, paralyzed from the waist down, slow, so retardation, and among other things, I just can't remember them. I was on breathing medication for seizures, a medication to help go to the bathroom, pain medication, anxiety medication, just everything. I would have to put on the breathing machine every night. I hated it though, because it seemed to make my breathing worse, not better. And then another machine was for the feeding tube. It was controlling what I'd eat. My medications would be put through there. I really wouldn't even have to be awake, so she could put whatever in my body and I wouldn't even know.
Make me really yawn. So where are you going today?
I'm going to Children's Mercy Hospital to see my dentist for my teeth.
And we'll be back.
And we'll be back soon.
Not yet.
If we'd be going to the doctor, she would do all the talking. I'd always have a stuffed animal or a Barbie doll. She'd just tell me, just play with my Barbie doll. If the doctor would come to examine me, just stay in the wheelchair, be calm, play with your doll, and don't move your legs. I was just as much in the dark as everybody else. The only thing I knew is that I could walk. As for everything else, the leukemia, the epilepsy, I was taking medication that she said was cancer medicine. She would shave my head and say, well, it's gonna fall out anyway, so let's just keep it nice and neat. I just went on blind faith that a mother knows best.
You're supposed to love and protect your children. How can you do this to your child?
Gypsy Rose Blanchard was as consistently and viciously subjected to, in my opinion, Munchausen by proxy as anyone I've come across. Munchausen by proxy involves a caregiver who either feigns or actually induces illness in her children, and her goal is some kind of emotional gratification, looking for sympathy, attention, care, concern that she feels unable to get in any other way. It is a form of child abuse, first and foremost.
After watching this, it's clear as day she was abused for years. She didn't even know she didn't have all those conditions. She trusted her mother to take care of her. What I still can't comprehend is how did all those medical professionals not know? She visited that hospital 100 times over the years. She had multiple surgeries there, and none of them ever questioned anything. Yes, her mom gave her medication which would mimic symptoms, but still, someone, I'm quite sure someone, did suspect something. Dr. Mark Feldman, in talking about Carr's documentary with Vulture, faults Carr for making Bernardo Flesterstein, the pediatric neurologist, appear to be the hero of the story. He had a gross misunderstanding of his obligations as a physician, as well as the legal requirements to report suspected abuse or neglect, Feldman said. The film accepts Flesterstein's claim that he was only required to make a report to Child Protective Services in the latter instance, but according to Feldman, once he had included Munchausen by proxy in his list of possible diagnoses, he was obligated to make a report. And I quote, "This conundrum arises in case after case where innumerable doctors have evaluated the patient, perhaps had questions they kept to themselves, and just proceeded to treat or make referrals and ditch the case that way." End of quote. Honestly, I do agree with Dr. Feldman. Even if the neurologist was not required to contact social services, I truly and honestly believe it was his moral duty to do so. Why choose to ignore it, I have no idea. While a formal diagnosis of Munchausen by proxy for Dee Dee is technically impossible since she is dead, Feldman told the Springfield News Leader after Gypsy's guilty plea that he could confidently say Dee Dee had it based on what he knew about the case. Gypsy was infantilized and kept away from her peers, he said. She was little more than a tool for Dee Dee to navigate through the world the way she wanted to. He said it was unprecedented in the 24 years he had been researching the disorder for an abused child to have killed the abusive parent, as Gypsy did. The CBS network talk show Dr. Phil episode Mother Knows Best, a story of Munchausen by proxy and murder, featuring interviews with Gypsy Rose, her father, and stepmother, premiered on November 21st, 2017. And I want to play you a few clips from Dr. Phil's show.
Your mother kept you in a wheelchair. She kept you on a feeding tube.
Of Gypsy Rose.
Did she ever catch you walking?
A couple times. She started hitting me with a coat hanger.
And her boyfriend, Nicholas.
Did you ask him, quote, "Will you kill my mother for me?" You had a feeding tube inserted.
Yes, sir.
Looking back, are you suspect as to what she might have been putting in that tube?
It does pique my curiosity because I don't know all the names of the medications that I was on.
Could she have been poisoning you in some way to keep you sickly? Could she have been over-medicating you to keep you weak?
It's a possibility.
When you went to see doctors, did she tell you what to say? Did she tell you what not to say?
She told me that I couldn't speak during a doctor's appointment, that it would just solely be her. She would tell me, you know, sit in the wheelchair, play with your Barbie dolls, and let me talk and don't interrupt. And this continued on even into my 20s. My mother told the doctors that I was mentally incompetent. Therefore, they thought, you know, she won't know what she's talking about. She's got the mind of like a child.
So did she tell you that you were intellectually challenged?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what she said to you about that. How did she explain that to you?
She would always use the medical term for everything that was wrong, that I had microcephaly, which is small head, that my brain didn't develop right, and I'll never mature past a 6-year-old's level, mental level.
Did you ever say to her, there's nothing wrong with me?
No.
You saw a doctor in New Orleans that did a muscle biopsy on you to check for muscular dystrophy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a muscle biopsy for muscular dystrophy is a very painful procedure.
I still have the scar.
Yeah, they strip muscle from your thigh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever know what the results were?
No, sir.
What do you know now about that?
It came back normal.
And she knew that.
I think that she did know that. If a doctor wouldn't give her the results that she wanted or say what she wanted them to say, she would switch to a different doctor.
It's been a lie all these years.
Are you glad your mother's dead?
No, sir. I'm glad that I'm out of that situation. She would force me to be in a wheelchair, force me to go to doctor's appointments that I didn't need.
Did you understand that you being sick was necessary to keep up what she built? Because you got a house, donations, you got different things from people for being sick. So that was a source of income for her.
And I had no idea that I was a part of that.
You didn't know that you were a cash cow.
No.
So did she tell you that you were intellectually challenged?
My mother told the doctors that I was mentally incompetent. She's got the mind of like a child. She told me if I was to contact anybody and tell them that she would take a hammer to my fingers. And she had taken handcuffs and a dog leash and tied it together and tied me to the bed. I just don't understand how somebody can do this to their child.
You were being set up.
Right.
Why would she do that to you?
I trusted her so much. She told me that she loved me, that she was trying to protect me. The only person I need protection from is her.
It seems Gypsy Rose's boyfriend, Nicholas Goldy John, had a split personality disorder, and one of his personas is Victor, a 500-year-old vampire, and Victor would be the one killing Dee Dee. Gypsy regrets what she did to her mom, but at the time, she didn't really see any other way out. The Sony Entertainment television channel series CID aired an episode titled Death on Social Media on 13th of August 2017. This is based on the case, but the setting for the episode was changed to India. The characters Arya and Anchal were based on Gypsy and Dee Dee Blanchard respectively. If you guys want to watch the series, I'm going to leave the link in the description below. Investigation Discovery also aired a 2-hour-long special documentary titled Gypsy's Revenge. Gypsy Rose is interviewed while she is still incarcerated, and during the interview she describes her relationship with her mother. Gypsy's father, relatives and friends are all interviewed along with public officials and Nicholas Goldy John. If you are interested in watching this full documentary, it's just a little over 1 hour. I'm going to leave the link in the description below. Love You to Death aired on Lifetime in January 2019, dramatizing the case as inspired by true events. Marcia Gay Harden starred as the fictionalized version of Dee Dee, Emily Skaggs starred as Gypsy Rose's counterpart, Brennan Kilcook starred as Nick's counterpart, and Tate Donovan starred as Rod's counterpart. In 2019, the streaming service Hulu announced the creation of the true crime series The Act. The 8-episode miniseries is based on Michelle Dean's 2016 BuzzFeed article. Michelle Dean is an executive producer and writer for the first season of the series. Joey King was cast as Gypsy Rose and received an Emmy nomination for her performance. She actually shaved her head for the role. Actress Patricia Arquette was cast as Dee Dee and won an Emmy for her performance. The act premiered on March 20th, 2019. In the 2019 Netflix web television series The Politician, the characters Infinity Jackson, Ricardo and Dusty Jackson are respectively based on Gypsy Rose Blanchard, Nicholas Goldy John and Dee Dee Blanchard. I watched Gypsy's very first police interrogation after the pair had been picked by the police from Nick's apartment, the Big Ben. Honestly, to say the least, I was shocked. I didn't in a million years expected to hear that from Gypsy. She was being manipulative with the officer from the beginning of this interview. Even though she was picked up from Nick's parents' apartment, she acted like she didn't really know why she was brought in. I even told my husband, you know, hey, 5 minutes into the interview and that officer already broke her. Just 5 minutes in, and she bursts out crying. That's it. He had her, I believe. That is what I believe, honestly. But the shocking thing was, she kept on playing a game where she was completely innocent and she had no idea what that officer was talking about. And then at one point, I think that the officer became quite frustrated. Obviously, he knew what was happening before he even started questioning her. And he did say that he's not playing these games and he just wants to know why Dee Dee got killed. Finally, a long time into the interview, Gypsy gives in. But she's twisting the story again. She's now saying Nick forced her into the bathroom. He locked the door, although the lock was the inside of the bathroom door, and she stayed in there whilst listening to Nick killing her mom. And then she's also making these unbelievable claims that Nick raped her and she was forced by him to clean his blood after he got a cut, and then she was forced to kneel and clean the blood droplets off the carpet. She also said she was grabbed by the throat by Nick and then he forced her to go with him. She is saying that he even packed a backpack for her where he put some clothing and some essential stuff that she needed. So you see how she's trying to play here the innocent victim in a way, so to speak. She knows that she's been caught, but obviously she doesn't want to be accused of murdering her mom, so she's coming up with this story on the spot, probably wasn't even rehearsed before, by shifting all the blame onto Nick. I think that at this point all she wants is to just be free, live her life after she got rid of the only person which held her captive. Gypsy is trying to lay down the reasoning behind Nick murdering her mom from the beginning by giving tiny clues to the officer, saying that he's a very violent person, saying that she's scared of him, but at the same time she does love him, and she will mention to the officer that he said on various occasions he doesn't like her mom, and quite possibly he hates her because she doesn't approve of him and he's got violent behavior. It's sort of like, you know, she's setting the scene for the officer to see that yes, Nick is the type of person who can potentially do something like this. And on the opposite end, she's innocent and the only thing she would be guilty of is of loving him, but also loving her mom. And she keeps highlighting this to the officer, that she loves her mom. And she doesn't want to hurt her. And she never wanted to hurt her mom. But there's a point in that interview where she's already mentioning her mom in the past tense. So even though she's saying that she's innocent and she didn't have anything to do with this, and potentially she doesn't know what happened, this is the most important clue when she mentions her mom in the past tense. We already know someone who is hiding something and who knows that the victim is already dead. They often refer to them in the past tense because that person is passed away already. Even when she lays out all the details around her trip and their hotel stay and then their taxi trips, and then getting to Nick's apartment, she is again twisting the story, saying that he forced her to do so many things, including posting those messages on Facebook. Those posts, and she said that she only used that language to draw people's attention that something happened to her mom, and she wanted her to be found and to be given a proper burial, but she implies that she is actually begging Nick to allow her to write that Facebook post so that people would find her mom. It's also really interesting to see when you watch the interview that although she is mentioning to the officer that Nick forced her to do all those things that she did, there is a point in the interview when the officer is asking what happened in the hotel room and if they had sexual contact. And she does say that they had sexual contact, and then the officer obviously is asking her if she was forced to do it or if she agreed to it, and she said at that point that it was consensual. So all the other times it was forced, but at that time in the hotel room she said that it was consensual. Now that interview, that's why I'm not showing you the interview, because it's 3 hours long. However, if you do want to watch the whole interview, I'll leave the link to it in the description below. It's now been almost 6 years since Nick Goldy John brutally murdered Dee Dee Blanchard, the mother of his girlfriend Gypsy Rose Blanchard, who had been convinced by her mother that she suffered from a variety of different medical conditions, also known as Munchausen by proxy. In Oxygen's Killer Couples, Goldy John gives his first interview since his sentencing of a life in prison.
I want to ask you, why did you agree to do this interview with us?
The reason I've agreed to do this interview was because when I noticed that my ex-co-defendant, Gypsy Blanchard, got a lot of attention, as she did, and she just kept on getting more and more attention. I felt that it's been tipped in one side of a scale to where I really wasn't getting much coverage. I wasn't being able to actually be able to voice my opinion. I wasn't able to let everyone know what I truly feel. I just know that she knows. She knows that I've taken the responsibility for mine already. I still have feelings for her. Of course, I will always have feelings for her. But every human being needs to grow and learn from their mistakes. And I feel that's where me and her both are right now. We're learning from this mistake that we've both made. I mean, the way she was raised, no woman should ever, no child for that matter, should ever have to be raised that way. I did feel that she was not taking responsibility for her actions, but at the same time, due to the way I know she was raised, I can't blame her. I can't. That, and along with my religion, with being a Christian, I know I'm not supposed to judge, so I'm not going to judge. It's just not part of who I am. I just won't do it.
What do you want people to know about you and your story, Nicholas?
The parts of my story that would be the main parts that would matter. And basically have it as a life lesson, basically. Tell them, don't be doing this stuff because you never know what it could lead to. And basically be an example of a role model if I could. Because, I mean, due to all the publicity Gypsy's getting, and she's getting me that publicity too, I feel like I have a responsibility. I feel like I have to be somewhat of a role model. And because of that, that's part of the reason why I feel like I have something to basically owe up to, basically. I mean, I do have restitution to pay to the society, which of course I'll be happy to do. But at the same time, I want to basically let everyone know that I'm not just this cold killer that doesn't have any feelings or anything else like that. I'm a human being. And as they say, human beings make mistakes. If I had to change anything at all, of course, one of the obvious ones was I would have probably ran away with Gypsy. That's the obvious ones. I definitely would have done that because I don't want to be stained with a murder on my hands. I don't want to be stained with that, being labeled as a killer. I don't want to be stained with that, but I'll live with it. I'll live with it. I probably would have attempted to try to get her to prolong it to a longer date, to maybe try to go a different route rather than what we did do. Or maybe trying to get her pregnant so this way her mom would be forced to let me in her life. Well, we really didn't get a chance to go through that route just because the limited time we had, there's just no way it would have been possible. So then maybe that'd be the only other minor change I would have made, is that I would have ran away with her earlier. So this way we wouldn't have had to suffer all this time away from each other, that we could have been closer together. That's probably the only two things I would have changed, really. When I was still in Michigan, something clicked. It was, ironically, it was on my very birthday. I had something click in me. And once that thing clicked, I knew that there was something different about myself that I didn't understand. I should actually bring up another moment when I was 14 years old, and that's when I first glimpse of it. This is when I realized that all the other things that were building up in me were basically jeopardizing my inner happiness, my inner peace, and all the rest of that. Because I remember seeing one night, it was at 9 o'clock at nighttime. I was in my grandma's house. I just remember looking in the mirror and I saw a glimpse of something I didn't recognize in my eye. It was just a shade, and it went away. It was almost like something was trying to tell me, oh yeah, I'm there. You've created me, I'm there. There's almost no light at all in there. but I saw a shadow go right past it. Just, it's almost like it wanted me to know that it was there. And so really, I knew there was a darker part of me, and I was actually quite terrified to actually explore it. I was terrified to explore it. And now I actually regret exploring it with Gypsy. She's the one I hoped I would be brave enough to actually explore it with me, just so that's the way I understand what's inside, who that is, what that is. I wanted to know, so this way I know what I'll be dealing with. And unfortunately, that part of me wanted to come out for a very long time, and the very first opportunity it got, it didn't waste any time in basically trying to make an example out of somebody, unfortunately. That dark shadow part of me that really is triggered by anger. It's triggered by anger. The sweet, innocent me that I usually wake up to every day is not there. It's a completely different person. I had one of those moments you might only have once in your lifetime. Basically, it was an angel and a devil. I actually had two different ones speaking to me. They both said one thing and left the decision up to me. First, the angel spoke, which I wish I would have listened, because it's really weird, because that only reassured me that my original idea of what we should do would have been the right thing to do. It's really weird that it reassured me on that. But it actually said, his very actual words was, take her and run. That's his very words. We had the other part of me, and yeah, that damn devil. What it ended up telling me was, this bitch is dead. That's all it said, this bitch is dead. Basically, once I heard that, for some darn reason, I don't know why it inflamed the emotion of enrage, but it did. It inflamed the emotion of rage. So I ended up whispering to Gypsy, get in the bathroom, because I just want to get this over with. She made me believe that her mom had found her. And I guess that's the reason why the darker part of me was more, I guess you could say, not manipulative, but more able to persuade me into saying, you're gonna have to do this.
In the special, Goldy John chronicles his relationship with Gypsy Rose, whom he met on a Christian chat room, and the murder of her mother so that the two could be together. In June 2015, Dee Dee Blanchard was stabbed to death in her bed, and she was found several days later after a Facebook post had read, "That bitch is dead," from the joint account of the mother and daughter duo. There was no sign of Gypsy Rose, so the case was initially handled as an abduction case. However, authorities tracked the IP address of the Facebook post to Wisconsin, where Goldy John and Gypsy Rose Blanchard had traveled. And for the first time, many saw that Gypsy Rose could walk and didn't suffer from any of the claimed disorders. No child should ever have to get raised that way, Goldy John says in the Oxygen special. My heart goes out to her for that. Gypsy Rose had confided in Goldy John that her mother was controlling her through physical and psychological abuse. When it became clear that Dee Dee would never let the two be together, Gypsy Rose and Goldy John conspired to kill her. Gypsy Rose pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and is serving a life sentence, while Goldy John was convicted of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison. The case was chronicled in the HBO documentary Mommy, Dad and Dearest, and was also the subject of Hulu's The Act and Lifetime's Love You to Death. These are the most shocking statements made by Goldy John in Killer Couples. And I quote, "I would have done it again. I might have done it differently, but I would have done it again. I couldn't see Gypsy Rose suffer anymore." End of quote. You can see, even at this point, Nick still stands by what he did, and he still believes that this was the only way Gypsy Rose could finally be free. However, it's possible his motivation wasn't necessarily to set her free more than it was for them to be together, as he didn't see any other way of them being together if Dee Dee was alive. On his relationship with Gypsy, Nick says, and I quote, "Those were probably the best days of my life. I enjoyed every second of it. From the very beginning, I knew we were soulmates. Those 5 days I was physically with her were the most intense and magical and awe-inspiring days I've ever had." End of quote. Goldy John explained that he discovered he had an alternate personality when he was 18. In a 2017 Dr. Phil interview, Blanchard said Goldy John had multiple personalities that were violent and scary. He thought he was a 500-year-old vampire named Victor. "I thought I was in love with him. The good side of..." This is from Gypsy Rose. In the Oxygen special, Goldy John referenced his evil side and explained that he felt the angel and the devil sitting on his shoulders when he walked into the Blanchards' house to kill Dee Dee, and that the devil suppressed the angel in that particular moment. Quote again, "The very second I put my foot down, I had one of those moments that you might only have once in your lifetime," he explained. "It was an angel and the devil. First, the angel spoke. It actually said, 'Take her and run.' And then you had the other part of me, the darn devil. What he ended up telling me was, 'That bitch is dead.' I got so darn enraged that something inside of me clicked. Unfortunately, that part of me wanted to come out for a very long time, and the very first opportunity it got, it didn't waste any time. The dark shadow part of me that really is triggered by anger. Once that anger clicks, I see red." End of quote. Alright guys, we really do need to talk about this multiple personality disorder. But, you know the time, yeah? And now I want to refer to the Wikipedia definition of the same personality disorder. Dissociative identity disorder, previously known as multiple personality disorder, is a mental disorder characterized by the maintenance of at least 2 distinct and relatively enduring personality states. The disorder is accompanied by memory gaps beyond what would be explained by ordinary forgetfulness. The personality states alternately show in a person's behavior. However, presentations of the disorder vary. Other conditions that often occur in people with DID include post-traumatic stress disorder, personality disorder, especially borderline and avoidant, depression, substance use disorders, conversion disorders, somatic symptom disorder, eating disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and sleep disorders. Self-harm, non-epileptic seizures, flashbacks with amnesia for content of flashbacks, anxiety disorders, and suicidality are also common. DID is associated with overwhelming traumas or abuse during childhood. In about 90% of the cases, there is a history of abuse in childhood, while other cases are linked to experiences of war or medical procedures during childhood. DID is controversial with both psychiatry and the legal system. In court cases, it has been used as a rarely successful form of the insanity defense. It is unclear whether increased rates of the disorders are due to better recognition or social cultural factors such as media portrayals. Okay, so I've seen Nick's interview with Oxygen, and in all honesty, after reading the definition of multiple personality disorder, I don't believe that he suffered with it. My opinion, I don't believe that he suffered with it, and I don't honestly believe that this is the reason he killed Dee Dee. According to the definition, you don't really remember what you're doing when you are the other persona of yourself, but he's very specific in his details, so he remembers exactly what he did. And he referred to it like you have the angel on one side and you have the devil on the other side, and the angel is saying just go run away with her, and the devil is saying that bitch is dead. I honestly don't see it as him having multiple personality disorder. As for his autism, I've watched his trial and he seemed to have some traits of autism there.
Go downstairs, Cassie, and take them down. And to those who want to wait, I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Please be seated. Since the jury has returned the verdicts of guilty, Mr. Perry, I'll set the time for filing of new trial motions to December 11th. That's including the extra extension of time. If the state wishes to file a response, they should do so by January 4th. I'll order a sentencing assessment to be prepared, and we'll set this for sentencing on January 18th, a Friday, if you're available, Mr. Perry.
Judge, I'm not.
All right. It will be sometime in February then.
That's fine, Judge.
That would be February 22nd. And we may need that much time anyway,
Did you say the 22nd?
if that works for
That
your
works.
schedule. Does that work for your schedule, Mr. Patterson?
Yes, sir.
February 22nd then, at 11 a.m. Parties will withdraw their exhibits and retain them. Is there any further record, Mr. Perry?
No, Judge.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for your work in this case. I know both sides have worked very hard. We're in recess.
One request.
Yes.
To have his father.
I'm not permitted to allow that anymore. I'm sorry, Mr. Perry. I am remanding you to the custody of the judge. We're in recess.
And if that's indeed the case, again, just like Gypsy, I also believe that he was a victim. I also think that he really does not deserve the sentence he got. He shouldn't spend his whole life in prison. They should consider his disability, and I think he should have treatment as well rather than being locked up in prison. I also think it's unfair that the jury didn't really have another option to choose from apart from murder or manslaughter. The judge didn't really give the option, and I honestly do think it's unfair. I think it's unfair. And in this story, the way I see it, everybody was a victim in their own way, including Dee Dee, who suffered from the Munchausen syndrome. But on the other hand, I don't believe that Dee Dee throughout the whole time didn't have at least once a moment of lucidity where she knew exactly that what she's doing is wrong. But I think she was just too comfortable in the life they had, the attention she received from everyone, the praise she received for being such a caring mom, all the freebies she received from this, and I also think that she saw this as a financial opportunity and she didn't really want to give that up, and that, in the end, destroyed her. Unfortunately, there isn't much knowledge about this syndrome, and I really do believe that some awareness needs to be brought and people need to be educated more surrounding the syndrome. We need to get informed about it. Especially the immediate family need to know the symptoms, because those are the first ones who are impacted and who are there all the time to see a potential person who is suffering from that syndrome, which can very well save lives. Even now, Nick still remains hopeful, and of course it's completely understandable. Unfortunately, I don't really see him getting a better verdict than this. I would hope he would get a better one, because in all honesty, I don't think this punishment is fair for him. Yes, I know, no one forced him to do it. Yes, I know there was another way possibly. Well, definitely there would have been another way, but I also think that at that point in time, none of them saw another way to save Gypsy, really. I wasn't surprised about the verdict, he added. There was shock at first, but then I got over the shock. I think that the fact he confessed straight from the beginning, it's highly commendable, honestly. He's the one who committed the murder and he owned up to it, compared to Gypsy in her first interrogation, where she just pretended like she's innocent. She doesn't know anything about it. He was straightforward in saying that he did it. Do I really think that he still loves Gypsy? In all honesty, I think that he will love her forever, but I also think that the reason why he wanted to come forward to do an interview was because Gypsy was getting the full media attention and she was heard by everybody, but he didn't get a chance to be heard as well. She only told her side of the story, and his side of the story needs to be heard as well, because in a sense, he was made the villain here, whereas Gypsy was made the victim. Okay, so I want to look at this from more points of views here. Probably by now you are thinking, what the hell is she talking about? She's not taking Gypsy's side. But I'm going to talk about different points of views here. We all know very well that Gypsy herself is a victim, okay? She was held captive by her own mother for so long that she just wanted to be free. She just wanted to get out of the constant abuse. If Gypsy was healthy, with constant medication being given to her by her mother, Dee Dee would make her own daughter sick, and this was only for her satisfaction, to care for Gypsy. From various interviews, one including Gypsy's stepmother, we could see that the stepmother actually found in Dee Dee's house a cupboard full of medications, and they were all for Gypsy. So imagine, you have this healthy little girl who is constantly being fed medication, constant trips at the hospitals, constant surgeries, unnecessary surgeries because there was nothing whatsoever wrong with her. She was forced to stay in a wheelchair. She couldn't have any friends. She couldn't live a normal teenager life. She couldn't live a normal child life. She didn't have any sorts of relationships outside of her and her mom's relationship. She was in effect a prisoner in her own home. So I'm not even surprised that she saw herself freed of her mom only by getting rid of her, as in only by killing her. And yes, she was the one who I think planned everything, and I think that she was the one who instigated Nick into helping her. But that's why I was so surprised at the fact that while she was in police custody in the interrogation room, she denied everything. She played completely innocent, whilst at the same time Nick said the truth straight from the beginning. He knew what he did and he owned it. He owned what he did, and yet on the other hand, you'd expect Gypsy, from everything that we know, she would be honest from the beginning as well. Because she always said she loved Nick so much and Nick loved her, and they both wanted to have a relationship. They loved each other so much, they wanted to live together, and the most important thing is that she was the one who got everything ready for Nick when he went in the house. She was the one who texted Nick saying that her mom is asleep and he can go in the house. She was the one who left those gloves by the entrance and the knife and everything. She even said in the interrogation that she doesn't know which knife Nick used, even though she was the one who actually left the knife there. It's just so surprising, really. Honestly, I never expected her to lie through the interrogation. And she lied throughout the interrogation. It was way into the interrogation that she finally admitted she knows what happened, but still she shifted all the blame to Nick. She pretended she's completely innocent. She pretended that Nick did everything, and he forced her to do everything she did because she was scared of him. However, I do think that she was a victim of Dee Dee. And at the same time, I also think that Nick was a victim of Gypsy. I think that he loved her so much, he was willing to do everything for her, and it's possible that he saw this as the only way out. A lot of people will be saying, okay, why didn't he just take her and just run away with her? But we also have to remember that she tried that previously, and her mom found her. She also went into that hotel room with the guy, and her mom went into the same hotel room and showed that guy the fake birth certificate showing that she is underage. So her mom was very, very controlling, and her mom potentially knew every single move Gypsy made. I don't think that any of them saw another escape apart from this. Even the story that Gypsy could get pregnant by Nick and then probably her mom would change her behavior and her opinion of Nick and would finally let Gypsy live her life, I don't really think that her mom would ever do that. I don't think there would have been any other escape for Gypsy whilst her mom was alive. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we've seen over the years so many doctors, so many medical professionals, friends, family, seeing Dee Dee and seeing Gypsy, and yet everybody believed Dee Dee's word without any sort of proof. And God knows for how much longer that could have been going on. The sad thing about this, however, is that being brought up by her mother since she was 3 months old, up until she was 23, when her mother was killed by Nick, over the years, the only thing that Gypsy learned from her mom was to be manipulative, to lie. She basically lied throughout her whole life. Her mom lied. She lied being forced by her mom. When you have the only role model in your life who is behaving this way, you will definitely behave the same way. This is the only role model you have, so you will end up being manipulative and being a liar just like your role model was throughout your entire life up to that point. Is it surprising that Gypsy is manipulative? No, not in the slightest. It's not surprising at all to me. Is it surprising that she was a liar? She potentially is still a liar? No, that's not surprising at all either. That's the only example she had, and when she was little she didn't know if it's right or if it's wrong, and by the time she grew up to actually judge and understand, it was already too late. Is she trying to change herself? Yeah, of course she is. I mean, I think anybody would. To me, the fact that she got 10 years in prison is not fair, because she was abused and she was held captive by her mother. She escaped a cage to just get placed into another. Her place is not in prison. Her place is in a hospital where she can get proper treatment and therapy for the years of abuse that she went through. But she's still happy with being in prison, because that means that she's actually more free in prison than she was whilst she was still with her mom. But the question remains, did Gypsy really love Nick, or did she see him as a tool? Did she see him as her savior, as the only person who could actually give her happiness without her mother? Did she see him as someone who will do anything for her? Did she see him as an opportunity, or did she genuinely love him? Or was he just lust, her first love, the first love that she ever experienced, the first boy she ever had feelings for? Sadly, only Gypsy can answer these questions. But what's clear from her stepmother's account, Gypsy now doesn't want anything to do with Nick. She doesn't want him in her life, even after she's released from prison. Could there have been any other way for her to set herself free? Honestly, I guess we will never know. In my eyes, even now, after reading everything, hearing everything, seeing everything that I did, I'm still of the same opinion that yes, what they both did was completely wrong. However, I do think that both of them were victims. Nick was Gypsy's victim, Gypsy was Dee Dee's victim, and Dee Dee was her syndrome's victim. And honestly, the truth is that we have no idea if Dee Dee would still be alive, Gypsy would be free. We have no idea in people with this syndrome. It's very difficult to track, especially when they do what Dee Dee did. Each time a doctor raised the question, she would change doctors. Each time Gypsy would go against her, she would abuse Gypsy. So it's possible that there wouldn't be an end to it. I have no idea. I am very angry and frustrated at all those doctors and those medical professionals who performed so many surgeries, so many tests and everything, and not once have they questioned, why is this girl getting so much medication? Why is she getting so much treatment? Why is she having these surgeries when there was no proof whatsoever that she in fact had all those conditions? They just took Dee Dee's word for it. Had one of them, at least one of them, come forward to say, hold on a minute, something is wrong here, then perhaps this could have been stopped. Gypsy's abuse could have been stopped, and then her mom could have been stopped without ending up in her death. I'm still wondering, and there will always be the question, and there will always be the if. And before I end this video, I would really like to ask you a favor. If you really believe Nicholas Goldy John was unfairly convicted, there is a petition to call for a reduction in his sentence. If you want to sign it, I am leaving the link in the description below. There's also another petition to free Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and if you feel it's fair for Gypsy to be freed, please sign it. I am also leaving the link for this in the description below. I'm not pressuring anybody into signing anything. I'm not pressuring anybody into agreeing with my views and my opinions. I personally will sign the petitions, but obviously it's your choice if you want to sign the petition or not. In my eyes, I'm signing both of the petitions because Gypsy was a victim to me, but Nick was also a victim, another victim to me. So that's why I am signing both of the petitions. Now I have checked the petitions, and Gypsy has a lot of signatures compared to Nick, who doesn't have so many. So I am only signing the petitions because I feel it is fair for them both to receive the proper treatment and care that they need, rather than being in prison. It's yeah, this is how I see it, really. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I really do hope that you took something from it, and I really do hope that maybe we can manage to raise awareness about the Munchausen syndrome by proxy, because as you can see, it can prove to be very dangerous. Not only can you make your healthy child sick, but it can also end up in murder, like we've learned in these two videos. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to make sure that you hit the big red subscribe button below, and also make sure you hit the notification bell so you know about any new video I upload. My next videos will be about the White House Farm murders. Take care and stay safe. Goodbye. Bye bye.